Hey, how's it going? My name's Mark.
What's up? I'm Jimmy.
Hey, welcome to our first video for AMC's The Walking Dead. True, true. Hey, today we'll be asking, analyzing, and answering a question that seems to be on a lot of people's minds in regards to the show, and that is,
Let's say it at the same time.
has
Has
The
The
Walking
Walking
Dead
Dead
lost
lost
its
its edge?
edge?
I don't know. Let's answer it.
Before we get into it, we figured we would more formally introduce ourselves and our experience with the show. Alright, well, first and foremost, I'm Mark, and I have been a huge fan of The Walking Dead since around 2011. I have read every comic book issue, watched every episode, and even played the Telltale game series.
Guess I'm a more casual fan of it. I don't like. I liked the first season of The Walking Dead game. The second one, no one played it. Not a. I read some of the comics, but not enough to be a fan of those.
Alright. So now we got that out of the way, let's jump right into it. First things first, we're going to talk about technical stats for the show, which include viewership ratings as well as critical response. You can see from this graph, the show's viewership has taken a huge hit this season. The numbers have not been as low as they are now since season 2, which is a bit of a cause for concern. However,
Really, season 2?
yeah, it's
Damn.
been that long. Oh yeah, so 10 plus million viewers still watch The Walking Dead every Sunday, which is a lot more than any other TV show currently on air, or at least most of them. Still, the fact remains that a whopping 7 million people have stopped watching the show since the infamous season 7 premiere, and this number could continue to go down. The reason for this decline could be a combination of many things. For one, there was a large amount of people who expressed their disgust in response to the gruesome season premiere, and many vowed to never watch the show again. What might have seemed like a bunch of shallow threads has actually greatly and negatively impacted the show's ratings. You have anything to say about that?
So yeah, like we said before. So it's just because it got violent.
Yeah, so apparently people decided the show about zombies and like people killing each other became too violent. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of odd, but I guess watch what you want.
I mean, people are still gonna bitch if it wasn't violent. They'd be like, okay, we waited a whole what is it? How long does it last?
Like
Months.
yeah, like 4 or 5
Like
months.
4 or 5 months. So they were gonna bitch if nothing happened with a pussy. So
You're right. Alright. So another reason might be that the show has simply gotten too boring. If your show has 17 million viewers, you can bet that a lot of them are just watching it for action, and they're not really interested in drama and character development, which is what much of this season has been about so far, at least in my opinion. But yeah, the fact is, not everyone wants to sit and watch Carol and Morgan interact with a brand new community we had never met beforehand, and not everyone wants to see the moody and quiet Daryl play prisoner. Not everyone wants to see Tara talk her way out of death for an hour. These are all episodes that, no matter how necessary they might be later, were rather dull. At least I think. What did you think of some of those episodes?
the only episode like with this season, as long as Negan was in it, I was like, I'm gonna watch it. I don't care, whatever. Like any of the only one I really had a problem with, the only episode that was so fucking boring, was the one with all the sex as fuck, huh? The one with all the women.
Well, we're trying to remove the sexism from it, but yeah, I mean, the fact is, it was still a pretty boring episode. Even if it was a bunch of men talking, it still would have been boring. So yeah. Anyways, but we'll talk more about individual characters and all that later on. So a third reason for the decline in viewers might be that the show has diverged a lot from its source material. So this might not account for a large number of the lost viewers, but it's certainly a factor. Many dedicated fans who have read the comic book have complained that the show has omitted key aspects from the comics. A lot of these same fans have been waiting literally for years to see one of the series' strongest storylines come to life, and they're disappointed with the show's handling of it. That might be a little biased because I feel that way, but I've talked to other friends that have read the comics and they feel similarly. Um, yeah, we can talk more about that later. Aside from ratings, though, the show is also suffering in terms of critical success. If you take a look at sites such as Rotten Tomatoes or even IGN, you'll see that this season of The Walking Dead has not been as favorable as previous ones. Sure, it is unfair to judge an entire season by only its first half, but the trend is there and it reflects the idea that maybe the show just simply isn't as good as it used to be. Some plots have become too familiar and predictable, some characters grow stale, and so on. By the numbers, The Walking Dead does seem like it is slowly, or quickly, depending on how you look at it, losing its touch. So now we're going to step away from facts and give our opinions about what we think is and is not working with the show, with an emphasis on the latter. To start things off on a positive note, I would like to credit the fact that the season premiere was phenomenal and definitely one of the best episodes to date. However, that leads me to one of my issues with this season, which is that it never seemed to get anywhere close to reaching the bar set by the premiere. So, what did you think of the premiere?
Yeah, it was like fucking intense. Yeah, it was just like crazy. You know, you got everything. You got like acting, like good, except for like Rick.
Please.
Yeah, that acting was fucking horrible. But
which is funny because a lot of people started a petition for that scene in particular. They said that scene should give Andrew Lincoln an Emmy nomination.
Really?
But I don't know. I agree with you. I thought the acting was a little like off. I feel like he tried a little too hard. But I mean, then again, I've never had someone threaten to cut my child's arm off, so
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. It's fucking amazing. I mean, like every time a major character dies, I think it's gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be a good episode. I don't know if there's some exceptions to that, but
what's it called? Do you think it was worth the cliffhanger they left us on last season? Was it worth it, or could they have been handled differently?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, the whole season was leading up to like seeing Negan, and we got to see him. I mean, we can't see too much, you know.
Okay.
Or maybe like people complaining that he didn't do much. He could have like killed a more minor character. I guess it would be Abraham in this case, and kind of leave us wondering, you know, like the major character.
Yeah, I read an interesting thing that was put up online that it would have been better if the show had in the season finale, season 6, they had killed Abraham and then like ended it there, and that way when they open season 7, people would still be surprised to see Glenn go. So you have that effect of a good season finale and a good season premiere because, well, in the finale you lose one character and then you watch the premiere not expecting another one to go, and well, they do. So I don't know. I thought that would have been a good way of handling it, but you know, maybe they didn't know yet who they were gonna kill. That's what I think. That's why I think they left it on the cliffhanger because they were still unsure who they were gonna kill.
Did you see that footage, that Maggie one?
Oh yeah. And then yeah, so apparently they filmed everyone dying, but there was a one particularly graphic leak scene of Maggie dying. It's I'm not sure you can still find it on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's very graphic actually. She gets killed, she gets hit, and she starts spitting out blood, and Glenn cries out for her, of course. So yeah, that would have been interesting, but yeah, it was like kind of weird because that scene that leaked like a day before the premiere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of theories that it had to do with the film crew. They purposely leaked it to throw people off, but I don't know anything about that.
I mean, like if you're even a casual fan like me, like who's kind of read the comics, you're kind of like, okay, it's Glenn. He's gonna die. Like, do you think it was that way? Were you expecting it, kind of?
No, yeah, like I thought it was such a big moment from the comics that if they had changed it, then I would have been like pretty disappointed.
They would have had to like if they didn't do it then, like kill him. They would have had to done something like big. But that was like the scene.
Were you surprised overall with the way they took care of it?
Not it. I mean, I guess no one expected Abraham. That was kind of random. That was random, but I guess it was like to build Negan more up. Like, oh, you know, he's this fucking crazy ass bitch.
Yeah, I remember when I watched the season 6 finale and they left it on the cliffhanger. I was complaining and telling everyone like the only way I'll forgive it is if they kill 2 people in the premiere, and that ended up happening. So I was surprised and actually like happy about it. But I mean, in the best way possible. Obviously, it's sad seeing these characters go, but it's a good, the kind of happy where you know you feel emotions for the show you're watching. Like Game of Thrones, you don't like seeing your favorite characters die, but at the same time, it keeps you into it.
Right, you know, you didn't feel bad for what's name?
Joffrey.
Joffrey, yeah, you know, like if like a show can bring out like emotions out of you, yeah, you know, they did something good.
Yeah, if they just keep killing minor characters, you're never gonna feel like emotionally involved. So that's why I'm glad they kept Glenn's death, which I'm sure all of you know by now was the way it went in the comics. Abraham was already dead by then, but Glenn was the one who died. So yeah. What about we talked about it briefly earlier, but what about the scene with Carl? Were you expecting him to actually cut off Carl's hand?
Mm, again, it was like that same episode, so I was kind of like, anything could happen, you know? It
Yeah.
was a fucking crazy episode. The very first episode, he already killed 2 people. And, what else? He made fucking Rick go outside, get his hatchet. He was doing a lot of crazy shit, so, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually, like, made him do it.
Mm.
That was like a 50-50, you know? Maybe he was gonna. That was actually. It'll be a surprise.
No, yeah. There's for like a hot second there, I thought he actually wasn't gonna do it, and a few people noticed that in the comics, Rick actually gets his arm chopped off really early on by the governor. So people were thinking that this was gonna be a remix of that. That yeah, like Carl was gonna be the one to get his arm cut off in like a twisted series of events. But I think it's good they didn't do it because yeah, that kind of would have been a bit overkill. And like yeah, I mean Carl already lost an eye,
Yeah.
and the arm's a little too much. But yeah, well, okay. Obviously, the main focal point of the premiere and really the season has been Negan. So we can talk about Negan now. So, would you like to start?
I mean, I just think, you know, again, just as someone who like is not as big as fan, I guess, he really brought interest, like, you know, for me, because I didn't watch a lot of like season 4 through like 6. Like I watched it, but I wasn't paying like full on attention. But then like when he came around, you know, he has like such a like big
Charisma?
presence, and
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
you know, he has charisma, and you know, he's like when he's on screen, like you know who he is. You're like, oh, this is a fucking bad guy right here, and I just think he's a badass. I think it's what the show needed since the governor.
Yeah. So do you see him as like a character you love to hate, or
Mm,
hate to love, or both?
I just love the fuck out of him. I don't know. I mean, unless he does something like pretty crazy, but I mean, it's because I really like the actor too. You know, he's a good actor.
Jeffrey D. Morgan. Yeah, he's a great actor. I like
he's good.
Jeffrey D. Morgan. My bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Obviously, Negan, like you said, he's something the show has needed for a while. They haven't had a like
Big
set
villain.
big villain since the governor, and that was way back since the ending, since the mid season of season 4.
Yeah.
So it was like over 2 seasons since we had a big villain. You can say the Hunters were a big villain, but they literally were involved in the show for like 3 episodes.
They just needed like that one guy. It needs to be one guy.
And Negan, like obviously as a fan of the comics, I've been looking forward to him for a long time, and he's just like the perfect villain. Like he's probably my second favorite villain, right behind the Joker. But yeah, like Negan, his presence is, and it's just so daunting, and he like masters every scene he's in. Every scene he's in, he's like in control.
He steals the show every episode he's in.
Yeah, there's some times where I feel like his jokes or like his tone can get a little bit annoying. Not like to the point where like I hate him or the actor. Like I said, I think the actor's phenomenal. But I think it just has to deal with the fact that in the comics, those of you familiar with him, he cusses a lot. Like he drops f bombs constantly, and I think the writers have trouble translating that into like a show where they can't say the f word, and as a result, like some dialogue lines sound a bit more cheesy. Like the scene where he says "easy peasy lemon squeezy." I was like, oh, okay.
I thought it was cool.
But then he has like these great lines, like I mean, like little pig, let me in. Like it's just awesome. And then like the most recent episode, the mid-season finale, I think it was perfect because you get to see one of the few scenes where Negan, actually not few, there's a lot of them. One of the scenes where Negan goes from like being playful to suddenly like very serious. Like, you know, 1 second he's playing around the pool with Spencer, and next second, like he guts him. So that's one thing I love about him. He's unpredictable.
He has that thing, you know. I think that's why people love well, like you said, the Joker, you know, especially obviously like the best one for like pretty much anyone is the Dark Knight Joker. He he does crazy shit, but he's calm about it, you know. That's why people like I don't know why people respond good to that.
Yeah.
But you know, Negan's like always smiling, you know, even when he like I guess spoiler the mid season where he like spills out Spencer's guts out and shit. I mean, he's like calm about it. He's like making fun of it. He's like, oh shit, I guess you do have guts. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and like the Joker, he's like always laughing. I guess maybe some inspiration was drew from him, maybe a little bit.
All right. Yep. So I like to see in the comments down below. You guys can say whether you love Negan more than you hate him, or you hate him more than you love him. Because I mean, in any case, the one thing you have to accept is that he is a badass leader.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if things had gone a bit differently for Rick, you have to consider that Rick could be Negan. And in a way, Rick is probably worse than Negan in some ways. Like, um, I'm talking about the fact that if you go back to season 6, Rick technically started this war. Yeah, you could say that the saviors would have came for them eventually, but I mean, yeah, eventually, and who knows, things could have been handled differently. But the fact is, Rick struck first, and Rick brutally killed all these people just for what? Some food that he could have grown in like the community. So yeah, if you talk so much about Negan being a bad guy, if like you absolutely can't stand him, just like take a look at our own characters, because not all of them are peachy either. Especially Rick, some of the things he's done.
I don't know. I mean, remember for the longest time, everybody's like, "Oh, Rick's gonna be the governor," and like,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and like I think like the Rick and Governor, they were always equals in terms of power, whereas Negan clearly has more power than Rick. And it's interesting to see that dynamic where Rick has finally lost control, and like seeing him struggle with the idea of finally not being in control. And Spencer's right. Spencer was right when he said that eventually Rick's ego is gonna get to him, and he's gonna try to challenge Negan, which obviously has become true by the end of the mid-season. And yeah, like that's just the type of person Rick is. Well, at least initially, but we'll talk about him later. Do you have anything more to say about Negan, or you want to move on to Dwight?
Yeah, Negan was just bad.
All right. So, Dwight. Well, I think you were the first one to bring him up. So, what do you think about Dwight?
Oh, I don't know. He's like that one character everybody's kind of waiting for. Like, they're just kind of, he's like not as present, but he's there and you're like, oh, this guy does a lot of bad shit. Nah, Negan does a lot of bad shit, like to him, like his wife, burning half of his face off, you're like, oh, this guy's obviously gonna do something. He looks, even Negan says himself, like how Rick gives him like that side eye, it's the same, it's the same look, Dwight gives him. So I think
oh yeah, like there's that scene. That scene was perfectly acted by both actors. The scene where Negan offers one of his wives to Dwight, and Dwight tells him like, "Nah, I'm cool," and Negan is like, "Are you cool though?" Like Negan kind of sees through Dwight and sees that like Dwight has a problem with him. I thought that was an interesting scene, and it's definitely setting the stage for maybe like a future conflict between those two characters, because things can be all peachy between them. Someone's gonna snap eventually. Negan might kill him for being insubordinate, or just because Negan's that kind of guy. Or Dwight might, betray Negan in some weird twist because he's had enough of it. What do you think is more likely to happen?
Negan's not dumb. Like he can see through like people's shit, right? Or maybe in his own mind, he think he does. Like how he killed Spencer. Do you think, like, for example, like Spencer? Do you think he like twisted his words a bit, or like, you think Spencer was literally like, okay, you can kill Rick, and I can just.
There's such a weird thing with the pool scene, because in the comics they make it pretty explicit that Spencer wants Rick dead, and they make it very explicit that Spencer wants Rick out of the picture, like gone. And so yeah, like it's like I thought it was completely justified and like necessary that Negan kills him. But in the show, Negan asks he asks Spencer like, why don't you kill Rick yourself? And Spencer actually says, he's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like, well, he tries to right before Negan kills him. But yeah, so in the show it's a bit more ambiguous. Like they make it seem like Spencer didn't really want to kill Rick, just wanted to like toss him out or something. But I don't know. It's hard to pick up.
It was, yeah, that part was weird because like, you ever seen one of those like guys that try to be tough as fuck for no reason?
Yeah.
that was like where Negan looked kind of meatheady as fuck. He was like he's one of those guys you say hi to, and he's like, oh, you trying to call me a bitch? Like what?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Someone mentioned. I remember I was reading through like comments about the episode, or whatever. Someone mentioned that maybe it has something to do with the fact that Negan might have been like a little tipsy at the time. and they were drinking.
Mhm.
I don't think that has a big part to do with it. I think it's just like Negan's character is like trying to establish dominance or whatever. But
Mhm.
one thing that irked me about the mid-season finale was the fact that like because this doesn't happen in the comics. Spencer and Negan in the comics, they talk like one-on-one. No one else is there. In the show, everyone is watching them talk. Like literally everyone, they're out in the
Yeah.
street. Everyone's watching them
Yeah, they're
talk,
all there.
and everyone clearly hears Spencer's plan to get rid of Rick. But then when Negan kills Spencer, everyone acts so horrified. And they're like, "How could you do that?" Like, I mean, this guy was trying to like betray your leader. Like, so I mean,
I mean, no, I mean, it's not that bad because, like, there's this guy that like killed two of like your, one of your main leaders, sub leaders, maybe, Glenn and Abraham. So I mean, I can see why they're kind of like they already have that mindset, like, oh,
yeah.
this guy's a dick, this guy's the bad guy. He's with us, Spencer's on our side, or he's part of our group. I mean, no matter what, maybe Spencer may have implied, when he was talking to Negan, they're still gonna look at him like, oh, this guy's the
Yeah,
bad
that's
guy.
true. I mean, I guess you're right. At the end of the day, he still killed one of them, and like whatever Spencer's intentions were, like he was still a human being.
Like, he
but
was
it's
still
just
part of
like,
their group.
yeah. But I just think their reactions could have been a lot less like horrified, like to the point where okay, this brings me to the next point. Rosita's dumb arc this season, which like I guess was like made sense because Negan did kill like her love, but what a dumb decision to okay, I mean it's not necessarily a dumb decision to try to kill Negan, like um well, also the fact that the show suddenly sprung that arc on her, where like, oh, she's willing to die as long as Negan is dead. And that was kind of random, and I thought like a little bit off character. But I guess that's only because we haven't gotten like enough of Rosita to really know her character all that much. Like this is her first significant screen time. But like, if you're gonna shoot the guy, like don't miss. You're literally like 5 feet away from her, and I mean, obviously it's just
was he that close?
Well, maybe like 10 feet.
Yeah, maybe like 10, 15.
But yeah, like, how do you hit the bat and not hit? I know, obviously, like from a like narrative perspective, you want to keep Negan alive. But like realistically speaking, like Rosita, like come on, we've seen you get all these amazing shots off against walkers and other things, and you can't shoot a guy who's like standing still, just swaying back and forth with his bat.
And
like,
you can't even say that she was too like, or she did it out of nowhere because she took the time to like aim and stuff. So I was kind of, that was kind of dumb. Maybe hit a shoulder or something.
I also thought I was watching it and I actually like watched it afterwards, so without commercials. But maybe it looked differently with commercials. But it was kind of a weird cut where like you had this scene where like Rosita shoots her gun, and then the next scene it cuts to is suddenly like Regan, suddenly Negan screaming, and I don't know. I just thought it was a weird cut. Like the way I watched it, like you never saw the bullet actually hit the bat. Like by the time that it started again, the bullet was already there. So I just thought that was like a weird cut and like kind of threw me off. And then but yeah, Negan's reaction to that was, I think, perfect.
Oh, dude, it was badass.
The way
what the shit? What the shit? That was fucking awesome.
Like once
Give him
again,
an Oscar.
like think about that scene. So yeah, he's being friendly, playing pool, and then he gets serious and kills Spencer, and he goes right back to being friendly, saying like, "Oh, you did have guts. I've never been so wrong in my life." And then that happens, and he goes right back to being like extremely serious, not taking any shit. Someone has to die.
That's back to like, I guess we gotta miss a bad face of you. Like, call this shit again. Like, oh, I guess we gotta, like, you fucked up. Well,
that's amazing. And yeah, like, kudos to Dean Morgan again for being able to master that.
Amazing range. He's an amazing actor.
So yeah, but yeah, just that whole scene in general was kind of iffy for me. Like, yeah, the fact that Rosita couldn't. And then it sucks that Eugene had to take the fall, and the fact that Rosita was surprised, even though in the premiere, like Negan made it clear that he doesn't punish the doer. Like obviously Daryl stepped out of line and tried to hit Negan, and Negan ended up killing Glenn. Yeah, so what? Like Rosita acted so surprised at the fact that they took Eugene. Like, what did you expect? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I don't know why she didn't remember like what happened not too long ago. So that was iffy for me too. And then I guess it should be noted, in case anyone's wondering, that in the comics it's Caro who shoots Lucille, and like in the comics it's a bit different. Like he actually shoots a chunk of her off, and there's a classic line from the comic where Negan says something along the lines of, "Caro, you skull-faced little fuck, you one-eyed asshole," something like that. But yeah, so it kind of sucks that they gave that to Rosita instead. But I mean, the power of the scene was still kind of there.
You know what I was thinking? Like once it showed like the fucking butt. What the fuck is that that fucking bat made out of? Fuck. That shit has metal
No.
inside of it or something. Like it bashed in like I don't know how many like heads in before fucking Glenn and Abraham, but like, and it took a bullet. Like that bitch
Yeah,
is still in good shape.
that's a pretty good bat.
that's a
It looks
good-ass
really
bat.
thick too. Like, they did a
I
good
mean,
job
it's
designing
still
the bat.
wood. It's still a bullet. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
how
true.
it takes that much shit. But
No, yeah, in the comics, like it busts a hole through it. Like a chunk of it is gone. It
yeah,
looks like well, obviously not a human, but it looks like something bit into the bat, and like that chunk is gone. Whereas the show, it's like a little little dent.
yeah,
But
like,
yeah. Speaking of the whole Carl situation, I guess we could talk about Carl and his arc this season, which was mostly like a revenge arc, and of course his episode infiltrating Negan's sanctuary. What did you think of that?
I mean, it was pretty cool. It gave Jesus something to do. So I
Yeah, we
guess,
haven't seen much of him.
Yeah. But was that whole like thing with like that? I don't know her name because I don't care about her. That girl, was that random or was that something from?
Enid?
Yeah, was that random? Or was that something from
That's
or was it more better in the comics?
well, in the comics, Carl doesn't have any love interest. It's different because Sophia's still alive, and they're more like best friends. But in the comics, it works better because they're still kids. Like they're like 10 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, like him and Sophia are just friends. Whereas in the show, they have the problem of them being teenagers. So they had to make it like more romantic story. Yeah. Like so, yeah, that kind of throws me off too. But I try not to think about it too much. But yeah, I just love the dynamic between Carl and Negan. Like the fact that they kind of have like a weird, twisted father-son relationship where Negan is just like obsessed with Carl, and Carl like hates him, but at the same time, like they're kind of a mirror of each other. Like you can see Carl eventually becoming Negan, and yeah, like I love that dynamic. The scene with them and the whole like sing me a song, that was perfect. Like great job by both of them. That was an outstanding scene with the whole like take off your bandage and all that. And then the fact that I love the part where we talked about this before, where like Negan noticed that Carl was upset when he's like making fun of his eye, and he actually takes a step back and says like, "Oh, you know what? I'm sorry." Like that was
he said it wasn't clear, but like, well, I guess I saw it more like because I watch it like my computer. It looks more focused or something, whatever. But yeah, his face actually was like, yeah, all right, I fucked that. That was fucked up, right?
Yeah.
He makes fun of his eye. He's like, "Oh, my bad. You're young as fuck."
Yeah, like I thought that was a very like key scene, and just the fact that showing that Negan still has this humanity and acknowledges that Carl's like just a kid, and it's just funny. Like Carl clearly is there to kill him, like he says outright, and Negan's still like, "I love this kid." Like, he tells Rick all the time and himself all the time that Carl's like a great kid, and that's just an interesting dynamic, and I can't wait to see their interactions more in the future. There's one thing I don't like about Carl. It's just that sometimes his delivery is a bit off. Like I think the actor does a pretty good job with the script he's given, but that's just the problem. The script he's given is a bit iffy at times. Like the dialogue options, like just the part where he's all like, "Oh, I only want Negan. Everyone else stand out of the way." Like, dude, like all these guys worship Negan. Like, that's pretty obvious. Like, that's not gonna work. But yeah, so I guess it's more of a defect of the writing, not necessarily the acting. Because yeah, Chandler Riggs, he's been with the show so long, it's hard to see anyone else in the role. There was that whole drama with him. You heard about it, like the whole college thing. They might be leaving the show for college. But I mean, there's still talks about it, but he's kind of dispelled those rumors by saying that he can do both, which is great because we want to see Carl as long as we can on the show.
But which is unrealistic because we're in college. Bitch, I want to see you try to do both.
Yeah, I mean he could do part time, but it's just.
No, you know what else is nuts? Like, what's it called? You're making millions off a TV show. You're still at college.
No, I don't know. I guess you can argue both sides. Like, there's people who get mad when like people become famous and like suddenly think they're too good for college or that they don't need to go to, and like yeah. So I think it's like it's two-way street. Like you could say it's respectable, like someone wanting to go to college, get an education, and all that. Good job, and like but at the same time, like, dude, like, if you're good at this, which you obviously are, like, stick to it. But I guess, going to school gives him a chance to, like, make his acting skills even more better and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, Chandler Riggs, kudos to you, sticking with the show. Hope you stick around, but, do what you gotta do. We can talk about Rick next, Carl's father. So we have the figurative father, which is Negan, who I think is a better father for Carl. And then we have his real father, Rick, who Well, Rick's arc this season has been interesting. I just think like they made him too much of a wimp. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, can't say I blame him.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah, like you see this guy. I guess like his thing is like he's never. I know everybody says it, but he's never met someone like Negan. Like
Yeah,
because with the governor, he was still like, okay, we're on even like playing ground here. Okay, we're kind of like you have this many people, this many weapons. Well, I have the same shit. But now he sees like all the shit they have, all their like shit, their weapons, their people, just Negan himself, just how tough everything about him and his people, everything he has, he's never
yeah.
seen anything like it. So yeah, he actually feels like intimidated by this guy. So I guess I can't blame him for being afraid all the time now.
That's true. I'm just kind of torn with Rick, and this is just like the comic reader in me. I'm torn with him because like it's half of me is like you said, like okay, because in the comics there was never that scene where Negan told Rick like cut off your son's arm. I think that's more traumatizing than anything Rick has faced in the comics. Like definitely. So yeah, like in the show, it's like understandable that Rick would back down and not want to challenge Negan. He doesn't want anything to happen to his son. But then like the other half of me is that I wish the show had gone the route of the comics. In the comics, they make it explicit very early on, very very early on, that Rick intends to get payback. He puts on a front and acts like he's taking Negan's shit, but he makes it very clear to Jesus and Andrea, who's still alive at the time in the comics, and is actually his girlfriend, not Michonne. But he makes it very clear that he intends to strike back, but he's only acting like he's being insubordinate. Whereas the show is completely different. He's actually insubordinate, and it's only the people around him that finally motivate him. Like, okay, come on, we gotta do something. Even though, like, I think in the at the end of the mid-season um, episode, like, he still looks kind of hesitant when like Michonne approaches him, but he realizes like, okay, like my son tried to attack him, Rosita tried to attack him, Michonne's trying to attack him. I guess I have to attack him. You know,
Yeah.
like, do you think he actually wants to go against him, or he's just going with the crowd, trying to please his people?
You know what I'm kind of thinking? Like, like the whole ending scene to the mid-season finale, like the very last scene, where everybody's kind of together again.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like before, like when before when Michonne went to talk to him, I feel that's when he was like, oh fuck, dude, am I doing this? Like, oh shit.
Oh,
But
when he
like,
was like in the cell alone.
yeah, when he was in the cell, like, he had his shit on the floor, like, oh, dude, is this something I'm gonna do? Fuck. So, like, yeah, and then like, but I feel like once he saw his group together, he's like, well, okay,
We can do this.
I can see this maybe happening. He feels more confident, especially after he saw Daryl.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
was
that
like,
was a great scene when they hugged.
yeah,
I was like,
the motherfuckers were crying at each
yeah,
other. I mean,
man.
that was cool. Yeah, so like I feel like once he, yeah, you can see like his even like I feel like that was good acting. Like even his like way of handling himself, his posture, everything, his face. Once they were walking to like the mansion place, whatever that is. What is it?
The I don't think it has a name, is it? The
It's just a
museum, isn't it?
mansion.
The history museum.
The
But yeah,
history
it's like a
museum?
mansion.
Yeah, I mean the history, wherever. They were walking. You can see his face is like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
I'm ready.
determined.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of the hilltop, I think Maggie's had a pretty great arc this season.
Yeah, she's one of the best ones.
Yeah, like she's become a great leader. I thought it was a bit funny. It kind of a repeat of earlier in the show. If some of you guys remember, there was people were pointing out the fact that she didn't really mourn Beth's not death, her disappearance. When Beth was separated from the group at the end of season 4, I believe, like people were pointing out that Maggie did not make any attempt to find her, did not ask anyone about her. Like she was just focused on Glenn and surviving. She didn't care about Beth at all. And we kind of saw a repeat of that this season. Like after Glenn died in the premiere, she was clearly sad and upset. But after the premiere, like there was really no indication of her mourning at all. Maybe that's just a sign of her strength as a character, like showing how strong she is, and of course independent. Which I mean, I didn't doubt any time in the show. Maggie's always been a strong character who like is one of my favorites, obviously. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny that she didn't really mourn him all that much afterwards. But yeah, like now she has much bigger things to worry about. She's essentially become the leader of the hilltop. So where do you think she fares? You think she's like, how do you compare it to Rick as a leader?
see, I was gonna say like what's it called? Leaders like need to have like this kind of nurturing side to them, because they obviously have to be tough. They
Yeah.
have to be able to take shit. But if people can see that they can care for something, like obviously Rick has a son and a daughter. People are gonna be like, oh, this guy knows what it's like taking care of other people. This is someone we can trust. You see a parent with kids, you're like, oh, this is a guy I can approach him.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
know,
never thought of that.
yeah, it's like one of those subtle things. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. It's like really subtle. And then Maggie, she's starting to have that because she's pregnant. She's gonna be a mom. People are people are starting to like. I feel like in the show they're like,
Yeah.
oh, like this woman, she's going through so much, and yet she's like, she's ready to have this kid.
Yeah.
She's like standing up. She's ready to fight. I mean, doing everything while pregnant. So.
No, yeah, and then on a similar note, I think people trust someone in that situation, like, because if you look at someone and they're pregnant and like, then you think like, okay, this person will do anything it takes to survive because like they have a reason to live, and like, yeah, they're pregnant. So that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. So yeah, Maggie, Lauren Cohen. I hope you stay on the show for a long time. Yeah. So, dang, I can't believe she's been around since season 2. Oof. But yeah, her character development has been great. She went from just like the farmer's girl, like in her early episodes, she was just kind of a thing for Glenn to look at, but she's become a lot stronger over the years, and yeah, definitely one of my favorite characters. And yeah, hope she's long lasting. What other characters we could talk about? You want to talk about Trevor, aka Simon,
Trevor,
or do you want to talk about Carol first?
Call him Trevor.
All right. So just so you know, we're talking about Simon in the show. But for those of you who don't know, which is probably like a whole 2 of you, yeah, Simon's actor is Trevor from Game of Thrones, from Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, but I say you know about Trevor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Simon, the character in The Walking Dead, he's played by the Stephen Oggs, who played Trevor in Grand Theft Auto. So everyone just knows him as Trevor.
Yeah.
I don't know why the show just didn't name him Trevor. Like, come on.
That would have been fucking amazing. Yeah. He always plays the same role, and to other people it'd be like, dude, like, he always does the same shit. But with this guy, no, it's perfect. He needs to do that role in even when he watched this fucking show, like, he's like acting if he's like stealing cars and money and shit. I mean, he is technically, yeah. Yeah, he always does the same shit, but he does it so good, It was well, I guess to me, because again, I didn't really like pay that much attention to like 2 whole seasons, but when he was actually there, I'm like, it's a big name. People know who he is. He's a big name. So, it's just cool to see him and, like, do his thing, just be, like, crazy calm.
I was worried because, okay, you've seen Better Call Saul, right? So, Stephen Ogg, a.k.a. Trevor, he had a scene in Better Call Saul that was literally, like, 5 minutes long. Like, he literally appeared on the show for, like, 5 minutes. But let me say, it was a great 5 minutes. Like, he was great in that scene.
He's still a crazy calm
exactly. Like,
oh.
it's outstanding. He goes up against Mike, so you can imagine, if for those of you familiar with the show, Breaking Bad and or Better Call Saul, he goes up against Mike, and it's just, like, an amazing scene. It's very short, but it's amazing. And, of course, Mike wins because Mike is Mike. But just the fact that Trevor was there and, like, went up against Mike was perfect. But I would... as I was saying, I was worried because, like I said, he came out in, like, 5 minutes for that show. So I thought the same thing was going to happen with The Walking Dead. Like, I thought he was going to come out for, like, an episode and that's it.
No,
but it looks like he's going to stay around a while, which is great. Like, yes, I want to see more Trevor.
You know what I'm hoping? Like, Dwight kind of... is Dwight, like, second in command too?
Yeah. I was going to say that. No, so in the comics, like, Dwight is clearly Negan's second-hand man. But in the show, they given that role to Trevor.
Really?
Yeah, Dwight's kind of like third.
I feel like in the show, I guess, because we see more of him, so we just I guess it's safe to assume that Dwight, is still second. But I feel like there's something that should go with, like, Dwight doing, like, getting pissed off or killed, either one betraying him or getting fucking Lucille to the head or some shit. And then Trevor just being in second in command. And just always being next to him, that'll be badass, right?
Yeah, hopefully Trevor stays around.
I want him to be like, because they don't really, You know how interesting a conversation between Negan and Trevor would be?
I know we've
That would
seen
be
very
fucking
small
amazing.
conversations. I think we've seen one conversation between them
Just
when
one.
he
It was
asked
like
for like the marker or the hatchet when he's all like, "What does Rick have on him?" But yeah, like I want to see like a full blown conversation between them.
they're both
That'd
so
be great.
fucking crazy. Oh my god, I'd pay for that shit.
Yeah, so Trevor is definitely a lot more interesting than Carol. So
Mhm.
Carol, like, I used to love her character so much. I'm not saying I don't anymore, but definitely like slowly losing interest because just the fact that like her whole not killed anything, like it would be interesting if like we didn't already have a character that's like that. Morgan and Carol have essentially become the same character. They both like went on murderous rampages and now they're both vowed not to kill. The only difference is that like Morgan cares about all life to the point where he wants to be around it, and Carol cares about life in a way that she doesn't want to be around it
Yeah.
because she knows she'll have to kill. That's like the only difference between them. But they're essentially the same character, and like in the coming conflict, we're gonna need all the hands on deck, and these two characters look like they're not gonna be willing to fight, at least as of right now. But yeah, what do you think of Carol?
Mm, she was like one of the. Ezekiel was supposed to be like such a cool introduction, and it was. I mean, like obviously a big ass. What is it? A lion?
Yeah, Shiva.
Yeah, Shiva. Yeah, I mean, obviously, his character introduction was done in grand fashion, but besides that, yeah, that whole story arc and like what happened after the introduction, it was just boring, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people like that episode. Just the fact that Ezekiel's such a charismatic character as well in his own right,
Yeah.
and like the kingdom, the fact that we have this new setting. But I don't know, it just felt a little out of place, and like, um, I don't know, it's the pacing this season has been weird. Like I feel like they jump around too much. I feel like the show works best when they have like two or three storylines going on in one episode and they just cut between them. Not when they focus on one place for the whole episode, which was the case with the kingdom. Like they spend the whole episode there, and it was a good episode, like character wise. But other than that, it's pretty forgettable. I don't remember
Boring
much of what
ass
happened.
fucking Terra episode. It can go.
Yeah, and
that.
like we said with the Terra episode, like you can say all you want, but the fact is that the episode was pretty boring. They didn't really introduce anything new other than the group. But from the looks of it, we were not going to see that group.
Thank God.
At least not for a long while. So I just felt like out of place, and it disrupted the flow of the show. Like,
what was the episode before that?
That was the one. The episode before it was the one at the hilltop that was focused on like Trevor visiting the hilltop and like Maggie essentially taking over from Gregory, the kingdom.
Oh, okay.
I mean the hilltop. But I mean that episode was okay. Definitely a lot better than the Terra episode. And like for those of people judging us or whatever, if you were to look it up right now on another tab, you'd see that the Terra episode was definitely like one of the lowest rated ones of all time, if not the most low rated. But like Tara, I like her character in general, but I think she just works better when she's with the group, not out on her own. And yeah, like I think that's true of a lot of characters. I didn't really like the Darrow episode that much when he was at the sanctuary, but I think that's just the fact that for me personally, like I feel like Darrow, his character development has kind of ended, and yeah, so a whole episode about him was kind of like, could do with something else. But it was interesting to see like a behind the scenes look of Negan's community. But we got that with Carl's episode, So I just felt a little unnecessary for me.
I think the second one was more detailed.
The one with Carl?
Yeah, the one with Carl was more because I mean it was just with the Daryl one. It was just like, okay, here's my room, but it could be yours, and that's it.
Yeah,
but with Carl, it was like, okay, here's bitches. Here's what I do if you fuck around.
Exactly. And then I don't know, the Daryl episode. Daryl's presence was easily overshadowed by Negan. Like Negan, like the only Well, yeah, but like okay, the difference is that like when I see Daryl and Negan on screen, I'm only looking at Negan. But when I see like Negan and Carl on screen, I'm actually interested in like both of them. Like I want to see what they say. And maybe that's because of the fact that Daryl's character doesn't talk much. Like he's just kind of in the mood all the time. So yeah, that's another thing that kind of irks me about the character. Like no hate against Norman Reedus, of course. He's one of my favorite actors on the show, definitely, both like in character and out of character. But yeah, like just the Daryl persona is kind of like grown stale for me over the course of all these seasons. But maybe he'll have a redeeming arc. I mean,
Yeah, I
he
feel
did a
like
great job when the governor attacked the prison. Daryl was like one of the best men
yeah,
there, like
Daryl
killing
was
everyone.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
in the coming conflict, I definitely think he'll play a much more vital role. But yeah, just that episode, it's kind of annoying for me. What were you gonna say right now?
What was I gonna say? Yeah, yeah, I think pretty much the same thing you are. That I'm hoping like the second half, or whenever they do decide to like start, they're not gonna go to war, instantly. They're
Yeah.
gonna start setting up or whatever they're gonna start planning. I hope he has more of a more of a threatening presence. Maybe something where like maybe he returns and like sees all the people that like
hmm
fucking did shit to him.
I
So
think it's gonna be interesting to see the moment when Negan finds out Daryl's escaped. I can't
oh
wait to
yeah,
see
yeah.
Negan's reaction to that, and
The
like,
fuck.
whew, you can bet he's gonna come like seeing red. He's gonna come knocking on Rick's door again. So that's gonna be an interesting development.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, I guess we can talk a little bit of theory for a second. What do you think's gonna happen with that guy, the one with the boots, the one who's like follow our characters?
That's a good question. I have no
Because
fucking
I
idea.
honestly have no idea. Like even
No,
as a comic reader, I have no idea what
I
that's
don't think
about.
anyone does.
Yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully, it goes somewhere interesting. I worry that it might just become like filler for this upcoming midseason. Because, like you said, they're not going to go to war right away. Like, there's definitely going to be build up, and as a matter of fact, we might not even see the war till next season. And
Really?
like it might just span over the whole season,
Mm.
and that's why I'm worried that like this new character they introduce, he's gonna somehow become like a side thing to kill time, and yeah, like, but hopefully it'll be interesting. Like, not all filler is boring or bad filler. Some
Mm-hmm.
of it's interesting. So hopefully I mean, they handled the wolves really well. I like the wolves. So if it's something like that, then yeah, I'm all for it. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like yeah, I feel like he's gonna be on Rick's side. I feel like that's
well, like I said, I have
guarantee.
no idea.
I don't know. I mean, it's gotta be someone who like can help them.
Yeah, I don't think it's anyone we've met already. Like
Really?
that'd be a little. Maybe Dwight. Like maybe Dwight's coming to like stir up problems for Negan,
Yeah.
or I don't know. Maybe someone related to the kingdom. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the kingdom, because I mean, we haven't seen like pretty much anyone from there.
That's true. We did have that one guy who came and like asked Carol and Morgan to fight.
Yeah, that's it.
It's funny when you watch it, like, because us viewers know that Carol and Morgan don't want to fight. So like you're watching that scene and you're just like, yeah, it's just pointless. Like you're trying to convince the two most pacifist people to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice to know that the kingdom does have these feelings of aggression towards Negan, and yeah, so. Obviously, there's something at play there where a possible alliance, and it's not really a spoiler either because they hint at it in the trailer for upcoming season and the upcoming second half. But yeah, so there's gonna definitely be some kind of alliance, or at least working together, or at least definitely communication. We saw that in the trailer, communication between Rick and Ezekiel, which I cannot wait for them to meet because they meet a lot earlier in the comics and it's a lot more epic. But I mean, yeah, I feel like it'll still be as epic. So yeah, I'm not like worried about that very much. Anything else? Final thoughts?
Just give me that episode with like a lot of Trevor and Negan interaction. That's all I want.
Alright, so wait, back to our original question. Do you think The Walking Dead lost its edge? Is it kind of like stay the same as where it's been recently, or is it better than it has been?
Again, they have
Negan.
yeah, they have Negan. They're big villain ever since the governor, and he does it better. They have big names, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. They got Trevor.
True.
They have a lot of people who like steal screen time. They just like steal the audience eyes. They have a lot of that. So I feel like if they learn, kind of they see what they did with like a couple episodes this first half, like the Terra episode. Maybe the Daryl episode's alright, but that's because Negan was in it. Yeah, if they somehow manage to like make interactions interesting, not every episode has to be like, oh, someone has to die or this has to happen in action, but if they can have interesting interactions, and if they can have a, like maybe a little more like scenes of like um, maybe like more scenes like where Negan's punishing someone. That'd be cool. I don't know, like just to like really build him up. Really
Yeah.
build him up as like the bad guy. Just make him like just evil.
Do you hope Negan? Do you want him to die like an almighty death, or do you like want him to live as long as possible, or like?
That's hard.
Because I know fans are torn. Like some people want to see him dead for all the atrocities
Mhm.
he's done and is gonna do, and some people want him to last a while because he's such an interesting character.
I feel like if they have like that fucking gap again, where they have like 2 seasons where they don't have like a set one guy villain, like like we waited this whole time for like another just one guy to like just
Yeah.
be dominant over their whole group. If that's gonna be the case, I hope he stays like a long time.
No, yeah. Negan, like I said, he's like one of my favorite characters of all time in any franchise, any media. So I hope he's here for a while. And like you said, he's not the governor, so it's very possible he could be around a while. He has more experience in this world. He has a much larger community at hand. So yeah,
He's more controlled.
um,
I mean, what?
I'm not understanding what.
Oh no, like he. I mean, the shit he does, it's like bad, but it's like the thing, it like makes sense. You're like, oh, you killed a bunch of my dudes. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You think I wasn't gonna look
Yeah,
at you like, dude, at least give me some shit, alright? Like, you stole some of my shit.
For the like I say 99.9% of the time, his reasoning behind doing the things he does are like understandable.
Like the other like 0.01 could be like like that whole thing with that guy's wife. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was kind of like. I mean, you stole his wife. I mean, they can't even talk.
Yeah. So there's still like it's kind of funny because like I don't think they touched too much into it in the show yet. Maybe I can't remember any specific instances, but like in the comics, they make it really clear early that Negan is against sexual violence, which is like kind of like like it's weird because okay, he's against sexual violence against women and like supposedly respects women, but he essentially forces them. Yeah, he forces them to like make love to him and all that. It's kind of hypocritical, but I guess it's just his twisted way of thinking.
Yeah,
and yeah.
It's like his way of thinking, like, oh, well, but they're still saying yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really consensual. I don't know. That could be even a topic for another video.
Yeah, I guess it's not as clear in the show, but
I guess for me, the question has The Walking Dead lost its edge. I think maybe I feel like it is a bit, but like, okay, this half season has definitely not been my favorite. But I understand that they're building towards something. So as long as the payoff is good, like okay, the Terra episode, I don't have any excuse for that. But pretty much everything else, I feel like they're building towards something, or everything adds something that's gonna be important in the future. So that's where like I still have faith in it. It's still my favorite show currently on the air. Maybe only matched by Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones is just phenomenal. Yeah. But I think it has lots of bit of its edge. My favorite season is still season 5. That was just like the perfect season for me. Yeah. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't know. And but yeah, so like I said, I haven't lost faith in it. I still watch it every week. I think the only problem is I don't watch it live anymore. That's really just a schedule thing. And yeah, like I still like it. I just hope that like the writers will be a little bit more consistent in terms of plot, eliminating these filler episodes as much as possible. Even though sometimes you gotta have them to fit the budget, whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, they already got renewed for season 8, so it's not like they're gonna cancel anytime soon. But yeah, I'm excited for Negan. I'm excited for the coming conflict now that Rick is on board. I'm excited for more scenes related to the Hilltop and Kingdom. Yeah, so I don't know. Anything else?
More Trevor.
More Trevor. Alright, does that pretty much wrap it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright. Well, go ahead in the comment section, drop down your own thoughts, anything you agree with, don't agree with, new things we haven't talked about really, and your own answer to the question, the Walking Dead lost its edge. And then yeah, back to that question of whether you hate Negan more or love him more. Yeah, I mean, I think that like pretty much wraps it up. So yeah, feel free to like and subscribe our channels. No? Anything else? Parting words?
Deuces.
Have a good one, guys.